Welcome, adventurer, back to the world of Lindwurm. My name is Hydra of the Dice Gods, and today we will be meeting the people who inhabit this world, the world created by Corvus Belli for their upcoming wargaming release, Warcrow. If you've not had the pleasure of Warcrow before, no problem. I recommend you take a few minutes to watch the first video in this series, linked in the description and at the top now. That'll get you up to speed with what we're talking about here. As before, our thanks go to the series sponsor, CCG Winkle, for making this happen, along with our channel members and Patreon supporters. Also a huge thanks to Corvus Belli for all of the information which they've made available to us. But enough clapping each other on the back. Let's set off into the world of Warcrow and meet the people who live here. Today we've got a beginner's lore guide to 3 of the 6 nations which have been announced for Warcrow so far. Let's start with the big boys of the Warcrow world and one half of the Winds from the North battle box, which arrives in July, the Hegemony of Embersig. The Hegemony controls the largest part of the world of Lindwurm, their lands dwarfing even longer standing empires and split into 8 provinces which harken back to the old kingdoms from which the Hegemony was born. They are the descendants of the 7 tribes of Magha horsemen, who originally came from the Bay of Horses. It was these who united in common cause to form the seed of the Hegemony which we see thriving today. A relatively new power in this world, it thrives through development and enlightened attitudes, aspiring to a better life to all within the land. Whilst other cultures remain quite segregated, the Hegemony includes humans, Asatari elves, Kent dwarves, each taking its place within a society which benefits from their strengths and distinctiveness. The dwarves bring engineering, banking, skilled craftsmen, and the essential management skills to make it all work. As travellers, the Kent dwarves were shunned by other dwarves, but found their home within the Hegemony and are now a valued part of the culture. The Asatari elves are the scholars, wizards, teachers and advisors in the Hegemony. With a life dedicated to protecting the wisdom and knowledge of their forebears, these roles suited the learned elves perfectly. And then we have the humans, the core of the Hegemony of Embersig. They do everything else, especially the soldiering. The Hegemony is an advanced and rich society, secular in outlook, permitting any and all to worship as they see fit. They prize technology and development over old-fashioned ideas, which has seen their reach and influence grow with each passing season. Being the biggest has its drawbacks, not least a growing list of enemies. From the scheming of the Feudom to the revived threat from the northern tribes, the Hegemony faces threats from all sides. Thankfully, they have the finest of protectors in the Black Legion, a force comprised of professional soldiers led by experienced officers called hetmen, and with a clear, defined doctrine of battle, the Black Legion is a force to be reckoned with. Their soldiers are some of the finest, most experienced and best equipped in all of Lindwurm. Never shying from battle, those who earn their wrath learn quickly and terminally the gravity of their mistake. One of their greatest leaders is Dragoslav the Anvil, hetman of the Black Legion. A warrior of renown, he lost an eye to a valiant marauder. Now deployed to the north, he leads the counter-offensive to push the northern tribes from Hegemony territory once and for all. The Feudom is another power centred on the humans of Lindwurm. Heirs of a legendary past, for over 1,000 years this great empire has stood. Born when the elvish empire of Gae-Asael fell, shattered by the civil war between the Radiant Elves and the Dark-Minded Elves. Gae-Asael was home to more than elves, however. One of the most common people within the lands were the human Widhata. This people succeeded in unifying part of the war-torn lands, forming the foundations of what would come to be known as the Feudom. Within it, a prosperous society stands, where all know their place and position as is right. The citizens still honour their forefathers' traditions, including their faith in the moon goddesses Selas and Losna. It is this history which sees the people of the Feudom scour their lands to rescue the relics of these moon goddesses, no matter who stands in their way. That's also why the Grand Cathedral of Celas and Losna in the capital of Havraincourt is a centre of hope and prayer for pilgrims from across the nation. Pilgrims who, once arrived, may be suitably taxed. Though it's worth saying that the Feudom does know how to tax people, leading to a very affluent state indeed. With great wealth comes the need for protection, and here we find the knights who form the nation's army. Supported by priestesses who bring the power and blessings of the moon goddesses to the battlefield, the Feudom specialises in many elite troops, like the griffin-riding Mist Guard, all of whom work to keep the people of the kingdom safe from those who would do them harm. Though, as our story begins, they are being sorely tested. The invasion of the northern tribes has sown terror in the populace and seen lands of the Feudom fall to these barbaric beasts in the north, whilst in the Duchy of Osmarkos, the Embersigians threaten further expansion, but those are still not the worst. The Sÿenann elves, descendants of survivors of Gaeasael, are long-sworn enemies of the Feudom. Though the elves spend much of their time cowering in their magical forests, that doesn't stop them from lightning raids to terrorise and massacre the people of the Feudom. But through all this, the people and brave warriors of the Feudom know that it is them, and only them, with the power and love of the goddesses. With their blessings, the Feudom will rise and purge the heretical scum from Lindwurm once and for all. It is, after all, their destiny to save the world. But are there not two sides to every story? Let's hear the other. From the elves of Sÿenann, who are the survivors and victors of the Gaeasael civil war. After the conflict, they moved to the Great Forest to become the protectors and guardians of these magical woods known as the Nine Lineages, as one nation, one common culture. Though separated across the land, the Sÿenann see it as one large forest. They have connected unconnected forests using their magical portals of light, which enable the elves to move between different areas quickly and easily. These can, however, only be used with the presence and support of one of two types of magical elves, either the Druids or the Iodoi. In the time since their arrival, the Sÿenann have become part of the forest, as it has become part of them, settling into a life dedicated to the preservation of these trees. They strike only from their home in protection of the forest or to defend their way of life. The Great Forest is now central to Sÿenann's society, especially the Senia trees. These rare magical trees are said to host the spirits of the ancestors. In fact, at birth, Sÿenann are assigned a tree. They must dedicate their life to the care and protection of the Senia tree, for in time, when their life is at an end, they will be buried within its roots. More than that, when the elf comes of age, a ceremony is undertaken where the Sïenna tree gives the elf a magical gift. It can be a fruit with healing, or to buff that elf's magic, or a branch to be crafted into a weapon of unparalleled deadliness, arrows which return to their user, or armour immune to the vile metal weapons of the humans. Sïenna leaves may also be made into cloaks, which allow the elves to turn into shadows. Though this symbiosis isn't without risk. Should a Sïenna tree die, then the elves who are tasked with its protection will be banished for all time without hope of redemption. More than this, if the elves leave the Great Forest for any period of time, they will begin to experience mental and physical side effects. The longer they are away from home, the worse these become. The Sïenna are a people on the rise. As magic returns to Lindwurm, they thrive, with some even discovering they can now create portals of light, a gift unknown before these strange times. Previously isolated, the arrival of the northern tribes, pressure from the Mount Haven dwarves, and the Hegemony of Embersig has changed their outlook. Powers without eye the great forests and threaten their way of life, the Sïenann are waking up to the idea that the best defence may be a robust offence. But more worrying is the growing threat of the fog. Historically it has left the Great Forest alone, but increasingly the fog has touched the Sïenann's home, bringing death and destruction with it. More worrying than the unknown nature of the fog is the fear that it might herald the return of a threat from the past. Many within the Sïenann sense the presence of the dark-minded within the fog, long thought destroyed in the Gaeasael War. These elves, followers of the Dark Doctrine, push their magic beyond the bounds of nature, embracing unholy, corrupted ideas with the aim to achieve ultimate power and immortality. If the rise in magic brings with it the return of these lunatics, the Sïenann stand ready to hunt them down and destroy them once and for all. With an army that is by far the deadliest in Lindwurm, they face this fight with great hope and strong resolve. And should the other races decide now is the time to strike at the heart of the home of the elves? Well, They will find the Sÿenann ready and eager to give the invaders the carnage that is the wages of their folly. So, Traveller, those are the first 3 of the nations of Lindwurm. 3 more await, with savage nature, technical genius, and monstrous beauty. But more of that in our next trip to Warcrow. For now, which nation are you most looking forward to playing, or most looking forward to crushing beneath your boot? Let us know in the comments, and if you have any lore questions about Lindwurm, put them there too. As ever, thank you to our channel members, Patreons, and CCG Winkle for making this series possible. If you enjoyed this video, like, subscribe, and share it. Maybe consider becoming a channel member to help us grow and bring more goodness from Warcrow to you all, just like the mighty channel member Joe Rogers has. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you again soon.